I hear Brenda's got a baby, but Brenda's barely got a brain. A damn shame, the girl can hardly spell her name.
That's not our problem, that's up to Brenda's family.
Well, let me show you how it affects our whole community. Now, Brenda really never knew her moms, and her dad was a junkie putting death into his arms. It's sad, cause I bet Brenda doesn't even know. Just cause you're in the ghetto doesn't mean you can't grow. But, that's a thought.
We were three the hard way. From 11 to 13 years old, we were a tight crew. It was 1994 when us two, me and Nika, became three when Dee came along. She came out of nowhere, just like the bullets that hit Tupac. He was a big part of our life too. Even though we never met him, it was like we was family though. We used to sit in front of the TV and watch his videos. His eyes were mad beautiful. Dee used to stop talking mid-sentence, food midway to her mouth when Pac came on. He sings about things I'm living, you know? His mom was a mess sometimes, but he still loved her. My mom was somewhere being somebody's hot mess too, she'd say. Dee was a foster kid and had been for a long time. She had lived in messed up homes where the parents just wanted to get paid, where she was so hungry she couldn't hardly move, while the parents did crack. But she was with Flo when we met her. I don't know her real name. Flo just stood for Foster Lady Orderly. From what we heard about her, she was aight. She let Dee roam the streets in the day, long as she was home by 9. Me and Nika was jealous, because we couldn't go off the block without our mamas yelling. Flo made Dee wear her hair in 2 cornrows or a lot of braids, though. So when she was with us, she let her hair down free. Nika tried to tell Dee to tell Flo she was grown and could wear her hair how she wanted. But Dee was scared of causing trouble and getting kicked out of the system. She was scared of being homeless. She didn't know who her daddy was, and she was always telling us her mama was coming back, but we quit believing that after a while. We didn't really know a lot about Dee. We didn't even know where she lived, just over around somewhere. She would take the bus home from our block. She was always talking to us about the big purpose, something that everyone had. We just had to figure out what it was. That first day she walked over to us, I remember me and Nika was sitting on the stairs. We noticed how pretty she was. Tall, skinny, tan brown skin, and these crazy green eyes. I didn't know nobody with green eyes, especially no black person. She was wearing these white girl shoes though. It was kind of funky. After she left though, me and Nika decided she was cool. We had told her she could come over tomorrow to jump rope with us. We was real good at double dutch. Turned out she was too. I had felt a weird connection with her right away. We was both walking through the world trying to find our other halves, our true identity. She roamed the streets, I roamed the books. Everybody was always making fun of me for reading them books. I read novels, biographies, autobiographies. I wanted to learn about other people's lives and maybe see a little bit of me in them books. People called me the brain. I'm just the type of person who likes to watch and listen. I take things in. I lived alone with Mama, but she worked a lot, so my house was usually quiet. Except when Nika would stay the night. Me and Nika lived across the street from one another our whole lives. We was like sisters. And her family was like my family. So her 4 brothers and 2 sisters were like my siblings too. Tosh, the oldest brother, was in jail for a crime he ain't commit. I knew he was tough when he had to be, but I still used to worry about him in jail. He'd always been a sissy, a queen. He liked cute things and called himself a sister. We loved Tosh though. The whispery way he talked, the swishy way he walked, and his beautifully shaped eyebrows. Poor thing just fell in love with the wrong guy and got set up. Jay Jones was the next oldest. I loved him like a brother, but also I was a little bit in love with him. Boy was fine. He worked at KFC and smelled like chicken grease, but it didn't matter. I used to love when he'd get home from work and sit on the steps with us girls and offer us chicken. He'd sit and talk with us for a while. He was going to be a pro ball player, he always said. He was always shooting down on the courts, always had a ball under his arm. Jay Jones loved Pac, too, just like us. He's the one that came running down the street to tell us when Pac was shot, when Pac got locked up. It was like Tosh. Pac didn't know nothing. Some girl said he touched her booty, but her story kept changing. The judge just didn't like his tattoo that said Thug Life. Or his skin color, I guess. Judges loved locking up brothers. It felt crazy to turn on the TV and see rappers talking about prison and doing these video scenes in prison, then to turn around and see your own people getting sent away. It was all crazy real. I remember Mama wasn't a big Tupac fan, but she was a big fan of justice. So when she got real upset when we heard on the radio that Pac was shot 5 times and robbed. Someone stole $40,000 worth of jewelry from him. We all cried. Us girls and Jay Jones sat out on the steps. It was snowy and freezing out, but we still sat outside, because we felt like the hurt from the cold was probably like the hurt Pac was feeling. Jay Jones said, "I can't even imagine Pac being dead. How come it's like that? How come I don't even know him and he be feeling like a brother to me?" It's because Pac sang songs we could relate to. He told us what could happen to us and that the world wouldn't even care. He gave us hope because he never gave up, no matter how messed up his life was. Dee was like him in that way. She never complained, but I knew she wished she had her mama and a nice home like me and Nika. We was jealous of her freedom, but she was jealous that we had mamas to yell at us and lay down rules. That's what she wanted. There was this one time, though, where she asked if we wanted to roam with her. So we snuck past Nika's house. Her mama was always in the window, ready to catch us. But not that day. Dee gave us bus tokens. I was so scared, I didn't want to get whooped. Nika was excited. She was always trying to say she was grown and needed freedom. She wanted to live her own life, not babysit her sisters and brothers. They wasn't her kids, she'd always say. Dee took us to this creepy dark park. That's when Nika got scared. But I stayed close with Dee, so Nika ran after us too. After walking a little bit, we came to these stone steps, and down in the middle was a huge stone wall. It's an amphitheater, Dee told us. We walked up to the stage. Dee yelled her name. Then we all did. The words would come right back to us. We yelled, "We're here! We're here!" In my head, I yelled, "I'm here! I'm here!" I felt whole and happy. I had my girls, and I felt like I belonged in this world. After our exciting adventure, we made it safely back to my house without getting caught. Mama was still at work. I loved my girls and the crazy things we did. I loved sitting on the steps outside, too, just talking with them. On my 13th birthday, Mama gave me a framed picture of me, Nika, and Dee. She told me there was $20 behind the picture. She thought I'd freak with that much money. But it was the picture I really cared about, because it was forever. I wanted it to be me, Nika, and Dee for always. Not long after that, I went with Nika's family to go visit Tosh. It was a 3-hour bus ride. We packed a bunch of food to have a nice meal with him. Walking in a prison isn't pleasant. The loudest sound in the world is the soft click of prison gates looking behind you, locking behind you. The guards glared at the boys, their eyes saying, "We'll be saving you a spot." Tosh hugged us all. We all sat down to eat and talk. He told us he was getting out soon, in a couple months. It was real good to see him. When we got home, it was getting late, but Dee was waiting on my steps. She came inside and asked if she could stay the night. Dee never stayed the night. Flo didn't let her. We knew something was up. Dee came running in my house, saying her mama gave her 10 minutes, so Dee needed to tell her story fast. She told us her mama was coming to get her. The state thought she could take care of Dee now. But Dee didn't want to go. She wanted Flo to want to keep her, not give her up that easy. After that night, we didn't see Dee for over a month. We had no digits to call and didn't even know her address. Dag. There were 200 foster homes in Queens. There was no way to find her. We missed our girl. We was worried, too. Then we heard Tosh was coming home, and we got happy again. We were sitting outside listening to a bootleg tape of Tupac when we saw Dee walking at us with a strange-looking white woman. It was Dee's mama. The lady called her Desiree. Say, what? This our girl, and we ain't even know her real name? Or that she had a white mama? She told us she was moving upstate, but she'd come visit and call and write. That was the last we saw her. She never even called, till Pac got shot again, 4 times in the chest. The phone rang. "Our boy ain't gonna make it this time," Dee's voice said. On Friday the 13th, Pac died. We never talked to Dee, or Desiree, again. Some say Pac faked his death and escaped to an island. I'd like to think that Dee and Tupac found each other. Dee and Tupac and Dee. Finally happy and whole.